Am I the a-hole for sending my son away after he humiliated my husband with false abuse claims? This entire situation is honestly devastating. I'm sitting here trying to gather my thoughts, and my heart is just breaking for my husband. I never thought I'd be the guy posting on Reddit for life advice, but I'm at a total loss. Real names don't really matter to me at this point. I'm Sean, 37M, my husband is Zach, 36M, and my son is 16. I won't use my son's name for his own privacy, despite how I feel right now. To give you the necessary context, I divorced my ex-wife over a decade ago. She cheated on me for the entirety of our marriage. Honestly, that feels like a lifetime ago and it doesn't even sting anymore. We've moved past it, and I know for a fact my son is biologically mine. That was settled long ago. I met Zach when I was 28. At the time, my son was only 7 years old. When Zach and I first met, we hit it off instantly. I was finally in a place where I felt ready to date again, and I feel so incredibly lucky that he was the first person I truly felt an interest in. We connected on everything my ex-wife and I had lacked, and a million more things besides. People always say that life has a plan for you, and honestly, looking at Zach, I believe it. I'd go through a million more divorces and deal with being cheated on over and over again if it meant I ended up with him every single time. He is the kindest, most grounded person I have ever known. One of the biggest hurdles when we started getting serious was, of course, my son. Zach was hesitant at first, which I understood. Being a step-parent is a massive responsibility and a delicate situation. But Zach wanted a family so badly, and I was genuinely excited for him to meet my boy. After we had been dating for about a year, I sat down with my ex-wife. I told her I was introducing our son to a guy I was seeing. I told her it was serious and that I saw a real future with him. She was actually happy for me. We have a very good co-parenting relationship now. She just asked me to let her know when the introduction was happening so she could be prepared if our son had questions for her during his next visit. The transition was smoother than I could have ever hoped for. Zach and my son became best friends almost immediately. They did everything together. They both shared a massive love for Minecraft and would spend hours sitting on the floor in front of the TV, building worlds together. I used to just stand in the doorway and watch them, feeling this overwhelming sense of gratitude. I was so incredibly happy that the first person I found after my world collapsed was this amazing man who loved my son like his own. After about 6 months of them knowing each other, I asked Zach to move in. From that point on, life was exactly as I've been describing, amazing. My son started calling Zach his other dad when he was about 10 years old. It was such a sweet, organic moment. Knowing how much love was there is what makes what happened recently hurt so much worse. It's like watching a beautiful building you spent years constructing just crumble into dust in a single afternoon. The incident happened last weekend. My son had 3 of his friends over at our house. They were all hanging out in his room playing video games. I had to head out to do the grocery shopping for the week, so I left them there. Zach was home, relaxing in the living room. I don't know exactly how the topic came up, but things turned dark and incredibly homophobic very quickly. My husband was sitting on the couch in the living room. I guess my son and his friends assumed that because I had left, Zach had gone with me. But Zach was right there. My son's bedroom is connected directly to the living room, and when you have 4 teenage boys shouting over video games, you can hear everything. You don't even have to try to eavesdrop. Zach sat there and listened to the boys in the other room. One of my son's friends asked him, "How's it feel having a F-slur as a father?" I'm not even sure if I can type that word here without getting banned, but you know the one. Instead of defending the man who raised him, my son laughed. He actually laughed and said, "Kinda shitty." It didn't stop there. The friends started escalating, saying that my husband probably touched him when he was little. My son's response? He said, "He can try it now, he'll get his ass beat." So, within the span of a few minutes, my son went from being a kid I thought I knew to someone who was not only joining in on homophobic slurs against his own parent but also threatening him with violence over a horrific accusation that we all know is a lie. They kept going with it. They were saying things like, "Which one do you think takes it in the ass?" and, "Probably the F-slur, at least your real dad still likes women." Just a barrage of hateful, vile shit. And my husband just sat there. He sat on the couch in the dark and listened to his son, the boy he's tucked in, played games with, and loved for 9 years, trash him in the most dehumanizing way possible. He just sat there silently crying. I want to point out the absurdity of the ass-beating comment for a second. Zach has spent a good 4 hours a day at the gym for the last 3 years. He's in incredible shape. I don't know who my son thinks is getting their ass beat in that scenario, but it definitely isn't Zach. But the physical threat isn't even the point. It's the betrayal. It's the total lack of character. I got home about 2 hours later. I pulled into the driveway and saw Zach sitting in his car. He had a bag packed. He was just waiting for me to get back because, even after everything he'd just heard, he didn't want to leave my son in the house alone. He was still worried about the kid's safety while he was planning his own exit. I walked up to the car window, confused, asking what was going on and why he was leaving. He told me everything. He could barely get the words out. I tried to process it, but my first instinct, and I hate myself for this, was to try and minimize it. I told him, he's not serious, he's just being a stupid kid acting tough for his friends. I was trying to fix it, to make the pain go away, but it didn't matter. The damage was already done. You can't unhear your child calling you a slur and implying you're a predator. Zach left. He needed space, and I didn't blame him. I went inside the house and I absolutely lost it. I sent his friends home immediately. I didn't care if their parents had to come pick them up or if they had to walk, they were out. Then I spent a good 3 hours going back and forth with my son. At first, he was incredibly unapologetic. He actually doubled down. He kind of agreed with the things his friends had said. I looked him in the eye and asked him if he actually thought Zach had sexually abused him when he was younger. He looked at me and said, "No, but kids block those kinds of memories out, so really, who knows?" That was the breaking point for me. The sheer malice in that statement, to leave the door open for an accusation like that just to spite us, was too much. I told him right then and there to pack his shit. I told him he was going to live with his mother. For context, his mom lives 3 hours away. Moving there means a total upheaval of his life. He has to go to a new school where he knows nobody. He loses all his friends here. He also loses his privacy. In our house, he had his own room and plenty of space. At his mom's, he's one of 4 kids. He has to share a room with his stepbrother. It is a massive lifestyle change, going from an only child in a quiet home to being part of a loud, crowded household with 3 step-siblings. The second he realized I was serious, his entire attitude shifted. The tough guy act vanished. He started crying, begging me not to send him away. He kept saying he didn't mean it, that he was just lying to seem cool in front of his friends. I asked him why, if he was just acting cool. He continued to double down and disrespect Zach even after the friends were gone. He didn't have an answer for that. He just kept sobbing. I didn't care. I told him to have his bags ready because he was leaving in the morning. I called my ex-wife and laid out the whole situation. To her credit, she was just as disgusted as I was. She agreed that he needed something drastic to happen because what he did was fundamentally not okay. She was willing to take him in and provide that structure. Fast forward to right now. Zach has come back home, but things are not the same. He cries every single night. Honestly, watching him, it feels like he's mourning. And that's what scares me the most. When you mourn someone who has died, you eventually reach a point of indifference just so you can keep living your life. I don't want Zach to become indifferent to my son. I don't want them to throw away the strong bond one know they have over this one, albeit horrible, event. I am disgusted with my son's behavior. There's no other word for it. Those kinds of accusations he was tossing around can ruin a person's life at minimum, and at most, they can end it. It's not just a joke. My son calls me every single day. He tells me how much he misses me and how much he misses Zach. He says he wants to come home. I stay as strong as I can on the phone, but the second I hang up, I break down. Then Zach, the person who was actually victimized in all of this, tries to console me. He tells me that our son can come back and that he will be the one to leave instead. But I'm not doing that. I refuse to let my husband be driven out of his own home because of our son's bigotry and cruelty. I just don't know what the path forward looks like. I miss my son. I miss the way our house used to feel. I miss coming home and seeing the two of them together. It feels like there's a hole in the center of our lives. I've thought about therapy for my son, but he's already said no. You can't force therapy on a 16-year-old. He'll just sit there in silence for an hour and I'll be out $400. I need to know if I'm doing the right thing. Am I the asshole for making him stay there? I just need some advice on how to fix my family without sacrificing my husband's mental health. Am I the a-hole for making my son live with his mother, stepdad and 3 step-siblings after he verbally abused my husband? Update. This will be long. Sorry. Not going to lie, the entire OG post was basically a disaster. I expected a few replies, with only one actually being helpful, and then the post would die. Didn't happen that way. Wish it did, though. So much back and forth, and so much hate towards me being gay. I expected some, but holy shit. I was done with that post when someone suggested me and my husband both abuse my son sexually. Just no. Disaster. I thought living in bumfuck Montana was bad with the homophobic shit I deal with. As for the update, I spent the day yesterday with my son. A lot of people accused me of not taking his claims seriously. I did. The first 30 minutes of our initial talk, when this all happened, was about if he actually was abused. He said no. I asked again when I got here. I made sure to let him know there is no one I'd believe over him. He won't be punished for saying the truth if he was abused or not, but I needed to know. Again, he said no, he was never touched or raped by my husband. On to the questions and his answers. Why would you say something so dangerous? My son said he was feeling rejected by my husband since, as of late, he hasn't been spending nearly as much time with him. Which is true. A large part of my husband's life is my son. Zach tutors him, he coaches him in his sport, basketball, he goes on morning runs with my son, he used to drive him to and from school before my son got his car. They both share a lot of interests, and as a kid/step-parent dynamic, they spend a lot of time together. Towards the end of last year's summer, when my son was still at his mother's, my husband talked to me. He said he wanted to start spending more time apart, but not that kind of apart. He wanted to have more of a social life. He wanted to be able to do things away from us, but not like separate, if that makes sense. He realized my son would be leaving for college in 2-ish years, and my son was such a large part of his life, he didn't want to become depressed after he left with nothing to do. I agreed, said it was a good idea, and he had my full support as long as he still came home every night at a reasonable time and didn't let his relationship with my son suffer or anything. As of now, yes, it is different. My son doesn't need rides to school, he doesn't need tutoring, he doesn't do basketball anymore. Their hobbies are still the same, but my husband has been spending less time at home. It's not like he's gone all hours of the day and comes back at 3 a.m., but he has a healthy social life. I don't know how to explain it. Do you realize how dangerous it is to say something like that if it isn't true? He said yes, and he didn't think anyone was listening. He was just going along with his friend's shit. That didn't make sense to me, so I asked why he stood by his statement after I sent his friends home. He said he thought he shouldn't back down from something he says. Kind of like a ride or die. I told him that's fucking stupid and never do that, especially if he regrets what he said and it wasn't true in the first place. He said he knows. He realized that when it happened, but he just couldn't stop himself from keeping it up. It didn't hit him that it was serious until I told him he's going to stay with his mother. Why do you want to be friends with people that talk so much shit about your parents? He doesn't want to, but the kids bully the shit out of everyone they don't like, and he feels like he's in too deep to back out now. That I do understand. I had kids in my school like that. Bully everyone. They were cool to me, though, until they found out I was gay. Then they fucked my last few years of high school up. I told him I get it to some degree, but he doesn't have to add into what they're saying. A small chuckle and a fuck you is usually enough to get people to move on from something. I also asked about them bullying him because they kind of were. He said yeah, but they're not that bad with it. They just rip into him every so often about having gay dads, and I guess over time it made my son feel poorly towards my husband. The distance my husband was setting with my son, mixed with his friends saying the shit they do, just added up to that. I told him I understood. I want to make it clear, I don't support what he said. I understand the emotions behind it, though. Why didn't you talk to us about how you were feeling? He said he didn't want to start anything. My husband and him are still close. He didn't know how he felt and was more confused than anything, so why say something that would cause a fight if he didn't even know if he felt that way? I also understood this. At this point, I think this is just one miscommunication after another. Open dialogue would have prevented all of this from happening. There were a lot more questions, but me and my ex ended with, do you actually feel remorseful for what you said, or are you just tired of sleeping in the same room as a 7-year-old? He's actually remorseful. Told me even if he was staying there all year, he would still feel terrible over what he said about Zach. Reassured him again, if anything did happen, now is the time to speak and I will believe him. Again, he said no. He started crying, saying he just missed us. Emotional moment. We hugged, told him I loved him, and that would never change. Asked him to leave the room so me and his mother could talk. We decided on a month-to-month assessment to see when he would get privileges back, ending with him coming home. There were conditions to all of this, like family therapy, solo therapy, cutting his friends off completely, which I would help with. He was against the solo therapy, but came around. He asked if Zach was here. I said no, but would ask him if he wanted to come next time, which my son smiled at. I still agree sending my son to my ex-wife's was the right move. A lot of people aggressively disagree, which is fine. My parenting style isn't for everyone. One of you told me I should beat the kids up, though, so like, do I really care if some of you disagree with how I parent? Not really. Situation still sucks. I don't know what to say. I miss my son. He isn't coming home right now, and I wish I was leaving her house with him. As it stands right now, son is living with his mother and her family. He will get his phone, PS5, and car back at the end of the first, second, and third month, in that order. He will be able to move out of the room he's currently in, out into the guest house, at the end of month 4. Every month after that is touch and go, and we'll discuss at the end of each month what we think. Son will do bi-weekly solo therapy, and we will all do bi-weekly family therapy. We see it as he should do solo therapy 1 week, then family therapy the next. He can come back sooner. I want him back. My husband wants him back. He's wanted him back since he left. His mother is holding strong, but she also sees he's just miserable, so I think she'll break at some point and give up the guest house early. It is what it is. At the end of the night, my son asked if Zach would want to hear from him so he could apologize, and I told him yes. I've told him yes a few times now. Zach would love to hear from him. I doubt he'd have to wait longer than 1 ring before Zach picked up. My son called him as I was leaving, so I know they spoke. Ick about what, though? When I got home, Zach was feeling like shit and blaming himself more for all of this. I told him it's no one's fault. We just needed to talk to each other more. All in all, I think my son is remorseful, and he was just feeling trapped and isolated in a shitty situation and didn't know how to get out of it. I feel for him, and I wish I saw what was happening sooner. Thank you all for the advice. Or most of you. Some of you were just nasty and hateful. Someone on my first post called Stoner Therapist, something like that, gave good fucking advice. I didn't say it on that post, but if you read this, good shit? Thanks for it. Next update will be when he comes home. Hopefully it will be soon. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update.